Hello everyone. As requested, your friendly neighborhood pre-calc practice quiz answer video. Here goes. Starting with cosine of 3 theta equals negative 0.44. Theta is indicating to me degrees, and it should to you too. So whenever you see theta, we're dealing with degrees. Everything else, you see x as your variable, radians. But to begin this process, I got to get rid of the cosine piece by doing an inverse cosine. So then I'm left with 3 theta is the inverse cosine of negative 0.44, which is 116 degrees and about 10th. Now here's the exact moment when we arc cosine. Because in our world now, every time we inverse cosine, we know there's got to be 2 angles that have that same cosine value. So we have an and 3 theta cosine rule, or the arc cosine rule is plus or minus. So I get negative 116.10. So then, algebraically, we're going to divide by 3 and divide by 3, and I get theta equals 38.70 degrees. And it turns out it's going to be the same result when I divide 3 on the positive answer. And final stage, make sure to find all solutions because we have this infinite scenario of a wave. And so that comes from period equals 360 degrees divided by b. In this case, b is 3. Period is 120 degrees, a bit compressed by factor of 3. We write that as 120 degrees n, or like any group of 120 degrees, we'll find other solutions. Something wrong about that. Oh, here we go. Here's what I missed. That should be negative 38.70. That's number 1. Let's drift to number 2. Essentially the same problem, but we have the sine of 3 times an angle is negative 0.44. Begin with an inverse sine. So I've got 3 theta equals negative 26.10 degrees. And here's the moment we arc sine. Sine has a different rule than arc cosine because of the way the unit circle works. So the 2 angles that have a sine of negative 0.44 are the angle our calculator gives and its supplement. So I'm looking at 180 minus that. So, and 3 theta equals 180 minus negative 26.10 degrees, which means 3 theta equals 206.10 degrees. Then algebra it up, divide by 3. So theta will be 68.70 degrees. And on this side, we get theta equals negative 8.7 degrees. Good news, period is the same for number 1 and number 2, so plus groups of 120 degrees. Done. Let's move to number 3. This one is practically nuts, but you got this. We can break this down. First of all, you see the variables x. That means I'm in radians. Switch in your mode. Then, if you're really trying to break this down a little bit, first of all, think about, okay, this is one group, the sine of something. It's all trapped in there. So first of all, let's isolate for that by adding 2 and dividing by 4. Then we can deal with that crazy highlighted piece here. So first add 2. So I got 4 sine of pi over 3 times x minus 3 equals 3. Then divide 4. So I have the sine of pi over 3 times x minus 3 equals 3/4. Now is the moment where we inverse sine. That's when we get rid of that. So then what I'm left with is all the pieces in the inside here. Pi over 3 times x minus 3 equals, in radians, 0.8481. Now, at this moment, this is the first moment we've inverse signed, we must also arcsine. So this is my AND scenario, where I'm separating into 2 problems. However you do that visually is no problem. If you do it like me with columns, or you do kind of rows and do an OR kind of thing, do that. Now, we need the supplement to that angle, 0.8481. Okay, and so we're in radians, and a classic mistake is to put 180 here, and then you end up with a weird answer. Make sure that we're dealing with the supplement in terms of pi, because pi is equivalent to 180. So it's pi minus 0.8481 is the other problem we're dealing with here. And try to keep your, more decimals than 2 or 3 here, because pi is such a, an irrational, infinite digit kind of number, that the more digits you have, the more accurate you're going to be here. Okay, so that 2.2935 comes from pi minus that value that came up when we did the inverse sine. So now we have 2 possible angles, the angle and its supplement, all in radians. Then comes, the easiest thing I think to do here is divide by pi over 3. So divide everything by pi over 3. Now do that carefully in your calculator, put it in parentheses, otherwise you end up with divide by pi, and then you end up times 3, which is not what we're doing here. Okay, so we're going to get x minus 3, that piece is still there, equals that 0.8481 divided by parentheses pi over 3, which gives me 0.8099, to about 4 digits. And then here on this side, dividing by pi over 3. It's not a very good pi. So 2.2935 divided by parentheses pi over 3 gives me 2.1901. Then, just old school, add 3, and make sure I'm doing it on both sides of the equation. So I end up with x equals 3.8099 and x equals 5.1901. Almost done. Figure out the period, and this is a radian challenge here. Period is 2 pi now, so groups of 2 pi divided by the b value, and the b value is the value that's multiplying within the sign, and that's pi over 3. Be careful here, use parentheses if you're doing this in your calculator, or flip and multiply. And when I do that, pi divided by pi is 1, I end up with 6. Period is 6. Groups of 6 are our other answers on this one. Okay, for the last one, in terms of your time and life space, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the video, or I'm going to do the problem out, and then I'll just kind of explain it step by step. Okay, let's look through this last one. And again, we're kind of trying to think of that cosine pi over 6 x minus 4 garbage as one key piece. So to simplify for that first, so subtract 3, then divide by 2, Then I end up with cosine of pi over 5.6 times the quantity x minus 4 equals 1/2. Now we inverse cosine, which gets rid of that cosine and gets us a radian value for this. And this is the moment we arc cosine. So we have the positive 1.0472 and the negative 1.0472. Then this pi over 5.6 is like a multiplier, even though it looks crazy. So divide by that value over everything. Then add 4 on both equations. I end up with x equals 5.86667 essentially, and x equals 2.1333. Then we're solving for all solutions, meaning that I'm taking 2 pi divided by b, which is 2 pi divided by pi over 5.6. I'm at the bottom here. And then flip and multiply. I end up with 11.2 is my period, which gets added on in groups to the end. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I have a little bonus material for you. Let's kind of look at this as, graphically what's going on here. So if you graph the left side of that cosine business, and then you graph the line y equals 4, you can start to see those intersections. So here's there's my first answer. There's my other answer. And then I'm adding on 11.2 to find the cyclical answer is the next answer. So 2 plus 11.2 is 13.3 essentially. And then that happens again, 5.86 plus 11.2, about 17. And this extends infinitely. There you go. I hope you're ready for this. Let me know if you got questions.